Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zolo. We are 1 week exactly away from our 2021 NFL mock draft show, so be sure to come back next week for that. And then, of course, we have our live draft show happening next Thursday during the NFL draft. But today, we're talking the most enticing position in all of sports, arguably more than a catcher in baseball, the tight end position in fantasy football. Joining us to do that is none other than Jeremy, who is at Popes FFH, and he is with Yards Per Fantasy Playmakers podcast, and what I am told by Josh, who wrote the show sheet, plus a ton of other places.
Actually, I think that Ryan wrote that one.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't writing them all out. He can explain it.
Plus a ton of other places. So, I mean, the tight end talk might be 10 minutes, and Jeremy's plugging might be 15 minutes. So this may be the Jeremy plugs his own work show, but that's perfectly fine. Jeremy is here. I mean, if you've missed all of our tight end threads on Twitter, he's involved in every single one of them. All of our threads, period. He's been in every single one of them. So clearly, if you're listening, you got a good guy coming with you. Joining me, as always, Joshua Hudson and Ryan Weiss. And from what we've recently learned about Ryan's technical difficulties last week, ladies and gentlemen, he was using Mozilla Firefox as his browser. So
that's still around?
Eek indeed, Jeremy.
My God, I did not know how out of touch I was. But yes, not only is it still around, it completely will shut your computer down to the point where your search bars won't even work because they're all trying to link to Mozilla that they're not even supposed to. It was a nightmare.
So Ryan was using AOL Messenger on his dial-up internet with Windows 97.
I had to run to the store and grab one of those internet discs, and that just took way too long. I wasn't able to get back onto the show.
Couldn't download it in time.
Exactly.
He had to copy everything over onto a floppy disk before he had to restart his computer.
Yeah.
So he just had to pull up the task manager.
So while we were doing the show, he was playing Oregon Trail, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
It was a good game. I don't blame you.
What about the space pinball game, right? You could play that on the old Windows computers, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that was
for sure.
Game.
Spent hours on that thing.
That was a high quality game. All right, let's get into what the hell we're actually supposed to be talking about here. This show is going to not be on track at all.
No.
Zero shot that this goes on track. But to start here, we have Jeremy's top tight ends of the 2021 class, top 5, because there's really, outside of one, there's not much. But one, shockingly, is Kyle Pitts out of Florida. 2 is Pat Freiermuth. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Freiermuth.
I think it's Freiermuth.
I think it's Muth.
Yeah.
Okay. The Friar out of PSU, Penn State University. Brevin Jordan out of the University of Miami. Some guy named Hunter Long out of some college located in Boston. And Quentin Morris out of Bowling Green, of all places, which is a MAC school, correct?
That's right.
Correct.
It's like 2 hours from my house.
This is how shitty tight ends are. This is how bad the tight end classes have been recently. Maybe we'll get a good one in the future, but for right now,
Troutman came out of Dayton.
Troutman did come out of Dayton. And where did Harrison Bryant came out of what? Florida Atlantic, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Just so strange. Very, very strange. And then our own Zach's top tight ends, the 2021 class. Kyle Pitts at 1, 2 and 3 are switcheries. Brevin Jordan at 3, Brevin Jordan at 2, Freiermuth at 3. That's what you see a lot of people have. The 2 and the 3 kind of flip-flop between those two guys. 4 is Hunter Long. 5, Trey McKitty, arguably the best name out of this class. Kylan Granson out of SMU. Quentin Morris out of Bowling Green. Kenny Yeboah, also a great name, out of Ole Miss. Tony
Good hair, too.
Does he have good hair?
I'll have to look it up.
It's got like a big kind of half afro, flat top kind of look.
Heck yeah. Nice.
And here we are making football players wear helmets. Hiding such great hair.
Exactly.
That's like Tyquan Underwood when he played on the Bucks, right? He had the flat top. That was a nice haircut. Tony Poljan from Virginia. Trey Barry at 10 from Jacksonville State.
Sure.
Where?
I have to throw out, though, it's so funny that you mentioned Trey McKitty loving his name. Josh has me trying to hunt down information on Trey McKitty for our threads, and 90% of the posts that I found are simply complimenting him on having the best name in the draft. And I'm like, this is not helpful in any way, shape, or form.
But you know what, though? It might be a very entertaining thread to see how many people say that.
Seeing as in he has like 600 yards in his career, and it's not.
Hey.
There's not much.
Hey,
His career is a thread, a literal thread.
listen, my mom, first year ever playing fantasy football, solely drafted Maurice Jones-Drew because of his name.
There you go.
Didn't know anything about it. Now. Obviously, Maurice Jones-Drew is probably one of the best Jaguars running backs ever, and one of the better, smaller running backs ever. But she had no clue who Maurice Jones-Drew was or what he did. So maybe Trey McKitty is the Maurice Jones-Drew of the tight end position. He won't be, but maybe he will be. And then a couple of the guys, Zaire Mitchell from Notre Dame and Matt Bushman from BYU. Just Bushman. Such an unfortunate name. BYU.
Bushman's interesting, though. It's sneaky at 12.
Well,
he opted out for 2020 also, which I think probably hurt him.
Isn't he super old, though?
He's like 25.
I was going to say, isn't he like 25 or 24?
That's the knock on Hayden Hurst when he came out, too. So,
yeah.
Brandon Weeden was 28, was a first-round pick. So,
well, that's only because Cleveland exists.
Matt Bushman, baby. All right, let's just, Jeremy, we'll start with, obviously, the guy who a lot of people have pegged going either to Atlanta or Cincinnati. And if they're not going to one of those two, he's not falling too much further in the draft. What makes Kyle Pitts so great in your opinion, Jeremy?
I think Kyle Pitts, for at least as far as a fantasy aspect goes, is just that he's a wide receiver playing tight end. I mean, he is that prototypical, almost Darren Waller type style tight end. I mean, he actually, surprisingly, too, coming into it, I was expecting his big knock that I saw was his blocking. And I was expecting to see the film and almost expect a guy that just doesn't block. But he actually was decent. Like, he was a lot better than I thought he was, which surprised me, which to me ultimately cemented, I mean, not that anybody was going to compete for that top tight end position, but like really cemented it in the fact that he should be a top 10 pick. Now, he does need to work on his blocking, but I think he just has good hands. I mean, he's just a matchup nightmare at that 6'6". He runs really good routes for that size. He's quick. I mean, the guy's just a red zone target that he should easily have that, like I said, that Darren Waller. If he gets used in a Darren Waller way, I mean, the upside's huge. It's just going to be how the team that drafts him uses him. But I think that's the biggest thing, is that he's just that route running ability, that he creates separation that way. He creates the separation with the 6'6" and his height and his huge catch radius too. I mean, he's comfortable catching the ball away from his body, up, down, low. I mean, he can go down and snag it just as well as any receiver in this class.
Yeah, last year alone, just among tight ends, he was first in deep catches and deep yards also. So, yeah. I mean, that just shows like his ability to stretch the field. I'll be honest with you, watching his tape, I don't see the 4.4 speed. That's just me. I take what kind of stock you want from the 40-day pro times, which I feel like are probably elevated a little bit more because we didn't have a combine this year. But I mean, there's no denying his ability. He was third in contested catches last year among tight ends in college football with 11. And that, again, when you're 6'6", you should be able to do that. And he's showing that he can. That gives the type of asset to these offenses that provides mismatches. And when you have a guy that is his size and speed that can destroy secondaries, you want that on your team all freaking day, and that should translate for fantasy. I agree, Jeremy.
Yeah, there's no way. Go ahead.
No, you're good. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Even in that contested catch area, like, he's strong too. Like, I mean, he's not like just a 6'6" lengthy guy. I mean, he goes up and over. He adjusts the ball. I mean, he plays the ball in the air like a wide receiver would, almost like a Julio Jones or something like that. I mean, he gets on the defenders. He high points the ball. He goes up and he grabs it and snags it out of the air, which is nice, which not all tight ends will do. You know what I mean? They just don't have that ability necessarily, like in tracking the ball and or the physical abilities to do that. So I think just that too, with that contested catch win ability too.
When you watch him play, there's literally no way you can say anything bad about him. He's too big to be as quick as he is. He's strong. You brought up the catch radius. It's insane. He uses his arms well. He uses his hands well, strong hands. Here's my knock, and I don't even want to call it a knock. Here's my question as someone who does not watch college football. all of his comps are he could be a wide receiver, he could be a wide receiver. And I understand that in college they don't use the tight end very much. His numbers outside of touchdowns, while nice, they're not Devontae Smith numbers. They're not what we've seen these top tier wide receivers put up. And Florida also had good wide receivers, so it's not like they could just focus on him. So I guess my question would be, Josh, I don't know how much you've dug into him, but Jeremy, how does a guy who is being projected as arguably the best player in this draft average 5 catches a game?
I mean, they spread the ball. I mean, Trayvon Grimes was there. He's not super high, but I mean, he's a decent receiver. You had Kadarius Toney. I mean, he took a good portion of those targets. I just think that, again, like you had mentioned, the tight ends don't get used a lot. I mean, that is a good point to bring up. I mean, his numbers aren't crazy, but even if you break it down, though, a lot of college receivers, I mean, 700 yards for a tight end is a lot of yardage in college. Do you know what I mean? Just because of their usage. And I mean, most guys don't even hit 700 for, I mean, who were we just joking about before we came on? I think.
Oh yeah. McKitty.
Was Trey McKitty. McKitty has less yardage in his career than Kyle Pitts had in 2020. So, but I mean, I can see that argument. I
would have liked to have seen him be more dominant for the praise that's being pumped on him. I do think he's going to be good, and I want to talk about landing spot next. But I do think he's going to be good. I'm a numbers guy, and while I see it on the field, the numbers, and I understand again, tight ends should be judged differently. But all we keep hearing is he's not a tight end. He's not a tight end. It's like, well, he looks like a damn tight end.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at that too with like TJ Hawkinson. I mean, you know, he only had 2 years of production at Iowa. It was first year kind of pedestrian. The second year throws up 760 yards. Like, you're going to look at 760 and be like, okay, that's nice. But here's the thing though, among fantasy tight ends, how many actually top 700
I said
yards?
You knew where I was going because TJ Hawkinson is just a guy to me. I don't care if he's tight end 5. He's tight end 5 scoring 100 fewer points than the top 3 guys. And so if I'm paying arguably a top 5 pick in rookie drafts for TJ Hawkinson, no thank you.
So just to put this out there, so the John Mackey Award is given to the most outstanding tight end in all of college football. The only guys since 2000 to average more than 17 yards per catch, Kyle Pitts obviously winning this award, is Kyle Pitts and Dallas Clark back in 2002 for Iowa. He averaged 17.3. They each had 43 receptions. Obviously, Dallas Clark had fewer yardage to get his, obviously his average yards per catch a little lower. But Kyle Pitts is the only guy since Chase Kaufman in 2008 with double-digit touchdowns, and the only other guy outside of Chase Kaufman and Kyle Pitts is Mercedes Lewis for double-digit touchdowns. And if you're looking at just straight production, I mean, Kyle Pitts probably does have the best production. All these guys, remember, he did this in 8 games this year. He did it in 8 games this year. So it wasn't like, and I look back to see, because the last Florida tight end to win the award was Aaron Hernandez back in 2009. And I just look because, to me, Aaron Hernandez played a lot like a wide receiver. He was built like a tight end, but he played like a wide receiver. The dude was unbelievably athletic. Aaron Hernandez was 4 inches shorter in the same weight as Kyle Pitts. So instead of being 6'6", he was 6'2", 250, which is why Aaron Hernandez was built like a damn tight end, because he was built. And keep in mind, Hernandez could do everything. And I think Kyle Pitts is going to progress to that point where Kyle Pitts, Jeremy, you talked about it, the biggest knock on Kyle Pitts is his blocking. But when you look at it, it's not terrible. Like, he can block, but he's not at the elite level as maybe like a Rob Gronkowski or a traditional blocking tight end would be at. But he can definitely progress to that point solely based off his athleticism and size. The dude has the size, he has the athleticism to do it. And that's something you can obviously learn at the next level. But looking at Hernandez last year in Florida, 850 yards and 5 touchdowns in 14 games, 68 catches. Kyle Pitts had more, again, this is a different era, but he had almost the same amount of yards. He had 2.5 times the touchdowns in 6 less games.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So he's nutty. He's a nut of an athlete. And I don't overlook the athlete side of things, because we've seen Henry Ruggs, Tavon Austin, John Ross, these athletes come out at these skill positions, and suck. Kyle Pitts is a different story. Kyle Pitts can actually produce on the field, and he's shown it, whereas Tavon Austin and John Ross were just 4.2 speed guys. If Kyle Pitts runs a 4.4, great. That's unbelievable for a guy his size.
Yeah,
if you told me Kyle Pitts ran a 4.6, I'd say, great. That's ridiculous for his size. So 4.4 or 4.6, it doesn't fucking matter to me. The dude is 6'6", 250 pounds. It is a nightmare, is a matchup nightmare. Because say he goes to Atlanta, what freaking safety is matching up against him? Maybe Jeremy Chin, who had a fantastic rookie season. But there's no one on Tampa secondary that's matching up with that. There's no one in New Orleans secondary.
I was going to say, Winfield Jr. is good in coverage, but Homeboy's like 5'9".
Yeah,
I mean, he's got almost a full foot on him.
Kyle Pitts just has to stand up. He's touching a basketball rim.
Well, I'm saying it doesn't even matter if they can cover him because his contested catch is ridiculous.
So at this point, it's Kyle Pitts in the field. Like we talk about with fantasy football tight ends now, it's Travis Kelce in the field. Yes, you'll have guys like George Kittle and Darren Waller that will definitely produce numbers. But when you look at Travis Kelce's numbers at the end of the season, Kelce is normally, and this is mostly because he plays all 16 games, he's normally 50 points higher than the next guy. So Kyle Pitts right now, and again, don't expect crazy production in his rookie season, as most rookie tight ends don't produce. We've seen it the past few seasons. Rookie tight ends just tend to not produce. They may have some games. Harrison Bryant had a good game. Adam Troutman had a couple games with a touchdown. But they're not going to give you tight end one numbers consistently. They may give it to you for a couple weeks, but are you willing to bet on those weeks to happen? And go ahead, Brian.
Well, Jeremy, I defer to you. Do you know what his ADP is right now? Because Fantasy FF Calculator has it way off. They have him as like the tight end 14, and I can't imagine it's that at all. But even like in a dynasty rookie draft, do you know about where you have to pay to get him right now?
I mean, he's 5, 6.
Okay.
I mean, he's around where Hawkinson almost went, like that 6, 7. Honestly, though, he's going. I mean, it depends. If you have a tight end premium league, I mean, I've seen him go as early. Some people are saying that they're going 1, 2 because they just believe that he's that guy. Because in a tight end premium league, they're expecting him to be Travis Kelce, and so their projection in like a dynasty format like that at 1-1, I'm getting 10 years because he's Darren Waller, but he's Darren Waller. After Darren Waller was in the league for 4 years?
Yeah, where he's like, 20 years old.
You're getting Darren Waller at 20 years old, and then they're projecting 10 years of top tight end production out of him. So he's going super early. But I mean, on average, I think I've seen a lot of rookie mocks and stuff. I mean, I just finished one. Actually, I can pull it up here in a minute. And I think he went in like that 4 or 5 range is about where he's going to be in most super flex rookie leagues.
And I'm so glad you brought up super flex, because that's what I wanted to say is I just want to go around the room. I'm stealing the spotlight from Joe here. Are any of us in a super flex paying that price for him? Because I'll tell you right now, I'm not. And I would love to know if you guys.
4 or 5?
Yeah.
No, you're fucking insane if you do that.
Yeah, I'm not. Look, if it's super flex tight end premium, sure.
No,
but just standard super flex, no, not
I don't.
I'm not paying it.
I don't care in any premium. Ryan showed you last season you can build a tight end 5 out of stream.
That's harder to do in dynasty. Though,
yeah, I'll say dynasty it is harder because the streets aren't
deeper.
out there.
Oh, okay, sure. Punt on the position. Like I just. It's literally go back to 2000. Go back to 2010 before Hernandez, Gronkowski, and like the reign of tight ends began. It was you had Tony Gonzalez, and if you didn't have Tony Gonzalez, you had Mercedes Lewis, who sucked, and that was everyone else. So punt on the position, like literally, tight end was an irrelevant position, was almost irrelevant as kicker in fantasy football, 2010 and before. It was because it was Tony Gonzalez, and that was it. So punt on the position. Like if you don't have Travis Kelce, George Kittle, or Darren Waller, it doesn't fucking matter.
It's just interesting to me in a super flex because you have a guy like, Jeremy, I don't know if you have a measure 1, but like Jamar Chase looks like a clear wide receiver 1 in this class.
You have one.
Yes, super flex. I don't understand taking anybody over Trevor Lawrence. So Trevor Lawrence has to be the 101. Yeah. And then depending on how these quarterbacks shake out, you literally could have 3 quarterbacks with the first 3 picks. In a super flex, I don't
Hell,
see
you
how
can
you
have
let those guys
quarterbacks for
go.
the first 4 picks.
Maybe 5 if people want to get out of there. So
Yeah.
it could be nuts. And so it's just interesting to me that he's going that early. And I get it. I truly do. And I play in a super flex tight end premium with the original Ballers writers. And without a tight end, you do feel behind the 8 ball. I still wouldn't pay.
So here now, like I said, I've seen a lot where he's in that 4 or 5 range. Would you pay 7?
I think 7 is where I
That's
have him.
fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're the 7th pick.
Is this
Would
in a
you take
10 or a
Kyle Pitts?
12 team?
12 team. So I just finished with a lot of the bigger names, we'll say, on Twitter right now for Smash Accept Pod. They're doing a show next week, and we did like a pre-mock draft, and he went 7.
Okay. 7 feels right to me. I don't have my
fine.
stuff right in front of me because I don't do my stuff until the day before the draft. But
I think he's one of the top 6 guys in a 1 QB dynasty league.
in a 1 QB, I would have to
1
relook.
QB dynasty. I think he's one of the top 6 picks. I mean, I would put the top 3 running backs: Harris, ETN, Williams. Obviously Jamar Chase in that conversation. You could argue Devonta Smith. I think he's worth that pick based on the talent, but I also think some people are gonna tie him more to landing spot for some reason. I'm not 1,000% sure why, but I think that's what they'll do. I like Rashad Bateman. I would put him in that category too. But again, I think there's some people that may put him in that landing spot dependent situation. So I think you could argue Pitts is easily a top 5-6 guy in single QB dynasty.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, this is super flex. I mean, guys that went after him are like Lance, Williams, Smith, Jones, Bateman, Waddle. All those guys go after him. The only ones that went before him would be like you had mentioned. There's 3 quarterbacks and a running back named Najee Harris, and then Jamar Chase. Yeah. So I think that seems about right, especially super flex. 7
completely agree. Those would be the names I would put ahead of him. So
and
7 feels right.
I took Hawkinson 2 years ago now in our rookie draft in a 1 QB at about 7. So at 7 to 8, I think I would be perfectly comfortable taking Pitts. But like you had mentioned, for the people that are willing to pay that 4 range, like I'm kind of out. Like I
will say this: one of the top metrics for incoming rookie tight ends, and from an analytics perspective, seems to be yards per route run. Kyle Pitts was 2nd in college football last year in a yards per route run, and I think it was like 3.26 or something.
For tight ends or
for tight ends? Yes, for tight ends, correct.
Who was first?
I say
kid by the name of Kyle Patterson out of Air Force.
Oh,
but he only played 5 games.
The elite football school that is Air Force. Elite.
So for all intents and purposes, Kyle Pitts was 1.
Hey, these tight ends come out of nowhere. You gotta watch out. Air Force, he might be somebody.
Yeah. But just quickly, if you need a tight end, and you're afraid if you trade back from 4 or 5 that you won't get Kyle Pitts, I'm not gonna be angry if you draft Kyle Pitts 4 or 5 and you like legitimately need a tight end, like you are.
But you'll be angry when the year's over.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna buy him from you for a first at 12th.
Exactly. So it's just be wary of it, and if you're paying for him, understand that it may take some time for him to progress. All these tight ends, it's going to take some time for them to progress. But again, I always draft for need mostly in the first 2 rounds. Once you get to 3, 4, and 5, unless a big name falls that far, it's like the NFL draft. You pick the best guy on the board and you hope he turns into something, and maybe you keep him, maybe you trade him for picks, blah, 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 any of that stuff. Yeah. But the first 2 rounds, you really drafted for need. Like, for example, in a 1 QB league when 2018, when Kyler Murray came out, I believe, I had the first overall pick, and Josh asked me, who are you going to take? I said Kyler Murray, and he's like, why would you do that? I'm like, because my quarterbacks are fucking Matt Stafford and a pile of garbage. So I need a quarterback. And like, would most people do that in 1 QB? Hell no. But if you're sitting at the 101 in a 1 QB league and your quarterbacks are Gardner Minshew and Sam Darnold and Trevor Lawrence is there,
I'm staying with
Trevor Lawrence. Like
Carolina believes, I believe.
There you go.
Hey, they believed in Teddy Bridgewater. How'd that work out?
We're going to find out how much they believe when 7 rolls around and Lance and Fields might be
8.
sitting there.
8 rolls
yeah.
around.
Or 8,
Detroit
my
is
bad,
at
yeah.
7. Detroit's
Yeah.
the biggest wild cards in the draft are Atlanta at 4 and Detroit at 7.
I just want to throw out one thing about Atlanta as a landing spot because everyone's really pumped about putting Pitts next to Julio, especially for his first year. I do not love Atlanta as a landing spot. We touched on this before the show, but you guys weren't here for that. So Arthur Smith did not unlock Jonnu Smith like we all wanted to have happen. How many times were we crying for that? And Hayden Hurst, a former first-round pick, is still there. He didn't do great last year, but he did admirable. Yep.
Admirable.
Admirable.
Words are hard.
Hard. That's why
Ryan's still processing his update from Muzzle.
I don't talk. Yeah, it was glitching out.
Yeah.
But anyway, and Atlanta paid for him. I just don't see there being enough to go around there to make Pitts relevant immediately there. I'm not saying he's still not a great dynasty pick, though he is also tied to an old quarterback at that point as well, because they would be passing up grabbing the quarterback of the future to get Pitts. So,
and my boy.
Well, and
Calvin
they're also a
Ridley's there,
target for
so.
some of these teams that might want to trade up to get whatever quarterback is left.
I think 4, you see it. Honestly, I think that Miami, again, moving back up again, but I think like you have Atlanta's going to be an interesting pick to watch, especially if they go 3 quarterbacks and say somebody really loves. I'm going to say I think the first 3 picks has to be Lawrence, Wilson, Fields. That's my personal opinion. I think that's what the actual NFL draft's going to be. And then I think 4, if somebody really wants Trey Lance or they just don't like Mac Jones and they really want Lance, somebody's coming up. But the question is who? You know what I mean? Does Carolina want somebody like that? Does
Denver want somebody?
Denver. I did a couple mocks
Washington,
with a couple guys.
maybe. Yeah.
I'm actually on with the Dynasty Dorks after this. We did a first round NFL mock and I had Denver. I traded up to 6 and it moved up to 6, but like I took Mac Jones because that was who's left. But you know what I mean? There's someone's going to panic and have to move up because who knows? You know what I mean? Could New England move up? Who knows? I mean, they have Cam Newton. I mean, if they want like say Trey Lance or something like that. And I think
or Mac Jones, right, Joe?
Yeah, or Mac Jones.
No.
But
Nope.
Joe, big Patriots fan, hates Mac Jones.
No. Why? What is there like about Mac Jones?
Honestly, not to hate on your Patriots, but I'm a Bills fan, and I lived through Tom Brady winning the most games at the Ralph. So you guys can deal with Cam Newton for a couple more years. Okay.
Jeremy.
I went through the hype of JP Lossman. I went through EJ Manuel. I went through.
Lossman,
you mean EJ Manuel, the only quarterback in NFL history throw an interception in 4 different countries? You mean that EJ Manuel?
Yeah, we have that quarterback on our roster. We had Peterman, who was it 4 and 1?
Wait, hold on.
We are good at something. Okay, it might not be winning, but
you mean the greatest show in the NFL, Nathan Peterman? Not the greatest player, just the greatest show.
Oh, for sure.
And not for your team.
Honestly, I got real scared in Sean McDermott's decision making after he named him the starter, and then he came out and did that. That was rough.
Yeah, that was tough. But yeah, no, this Cam Newton, no bueno. I think Trey Lance would be perfect for him. But just quickly before we move on to the next 2 guys that don't matter at all.
Hey, Freiermuth's pretty nice.
I disagree after finally catching up today.
Okay, all right, and we'll get to Lee's question too here that is on Facebook, not YouTube. I haven't forgotten about you, Lee. If Atlanta stays put, Atlanta needs to go Sewell because they need a damn offensive lineman. Like just ride out Matt Ryan and go for a quarterback next year.
I disagree. Get the quarterback now. You have no idea when you'll be here again.
Yeah, I'm
Sure.
telling you that the next 2 classes aren't either that great.
And that's fair. But like again, if Arthur Smith wanted to do what he did in Tennessee,
Yeah.
Penei Sewell and the best running back available in the 2nd round. If Najee Harris somehow makes it there, that is the ideal Atlanta Falcons situation, I think, in Arthur Smith's eyes. Now, if a team wants to trade you their 1st-round pick this year, 2 future firsts to move up, then trade away that pick. Then get rid of it. You don't need it anymore. That's fine.
So that's the Robert Griffin deal there. You make that deal.
Yes, you make that deal.
I feel like they're in limbo. You know what I mean? Atlanta is
have to be.
They're in limbo, like in this situation where they have an aging quarterback who has a contract that's untradeable or uncuttable.
Yep.
You have an aging Julio Jones who still can play. I mean, he's not useless,
still
but
ridiculous.
Like he's aging. He's up there. I mean, you missed your chance at the Super Bowl, and now your defense is in shambles almost. Like
wasn't Keanu Neal a first-round pick that they now have lost? And so you're missing on picks now. So.
Deion Jones, I think, is he still there? I don't know.
Yeah,
I know he was.
Yeah, they re-upped him last year. I think.
Yeah,
I think he fell off. Though. I mean, he's still decent, right?
No,
I don't.
Deion
totally
Jones
remember.
is amazing. He's just in and out of the lineup.
Hurt.
That's what it was. I'm like. Because I remember watching games and like never heard his name. I'm like, but I mean, maybe he was just missing the game.
Yeah, but like they whiffed on Vic Beasley.
Yeah, Vic Beasley, that's the one I'm talking about.
Like,
there it is.
Yeah, had one good year for them, and that was it.
That's
just
like record.
Tech McKinley just walked. He's in Cleveland now.
Was terrible.
They've swung and missed on those guys too. Yeah.
I mean, for the record, they've had some pretty decent guys. Like, and again, it's mostly like you can never predict injuries. So Keanu Neal
could not stay healthy.
Could not stay healthy. One of the best safeties in the league when he is healthy.
Yeah.
Deion Jones, top 5 middle linebacker in the NFL, can't stay healthy right now. Grady Jarrett, top 5 defensive lineman. He stays healthy, but how much can an interior lineman, not named Aaron Donald, really affect the outcome
especially
of the
when
game?
you can't put ends next to him, when you try to bookend him with Vic Beasley and Tech McKinley, and then Deion Jones can't stay healthy behind you. It doesn't work out real well.
Exactly.
So.
Their only hope for hitting on a recent draft pick is AJ Terrell looks pretty good.
Yeah, he does.
He looked really good in his rookie year. He's not afraid to tackle
now because what's his name's gone, the other corner.
I don't know.
Whoever their top corner was, he's in Detroit now. I can't think of his damn name.
Desmond Trufant was gone last year.
Oh, was he?
Yeah,
there you go.
He was out last year. So yeah, AJ Terrell was their one.
Who Detroit just cut this offseason, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Desmond Trufant. Yep. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's a Patriot now.
Did he sign with the Patriots?
I don't know. We spent so much money in free agency.
The depth chart I just saw still showed him on Detroit, I thought, but maybe I'm wrong. So.
I think he's out of Detroit, but who knows? Let's get into Mr. Freiermuth here. Lee asked, Joe, could you potentially be wearing a Freiermuth jersey? No, this is the greatest tight end of all time, Rob Gronkowski. And could the Pats go back?
Baby Gronk, though.
He's not Baby Gronk.
So I do want to throw one thing out there.
That's a nickname thrown about every offseason.
Every tight end who comes out who can run somebody over.
Tyler Eifert. Remember Tyler Eifert when he scored 15 touchdowns? Everyone's like, oh my God, he's the next Gronkowski. And then next season he scores 2?
All I'm going to say is this, and I'm not a film guy, I'm not a college guy, and I had no idea that was his nickname. The first note I took down was it felt like I was watching Gronk because he plays like him.
I disagree because Freiermuth doesn't break tackles the way that Gronkowski can break tackles.
Well, the stuff I saw, he was super physical, used his hands well. I was impressed.
Pro Football Focus credited him with only 3 forced missed tackles, which was 23rd among tight ends last year in college football.
Okay.
Like, he doesn't shed tacklers and gain the yards after the catch the way that guys like Pitts and the other guy we'll talk about in the segment, Brevin Jordan, do. Like, that's the big thing. Like, Freiermuth is he's kind of a Jason Witten, Kyle Rudolph, like Hunter Henry kind of tight end, at least in my eyes. Like, he's going to get you the 5-10 yards, and every once in a while with a busted coverage, he can streak a little, but he's going to get run down. Like I saw it, I think it was against the Nebraska game or something. There was some busted coverage, and he got loose for one that went right downfield, and the defender they stopped him, caught him right between inside the 5.
The Nebraska game, one of the worst 5 college football programs in the country of Division I. Pat Freiermuth ripped off a big play. Good job, Pat. Congratulations.
I'm just saying that was one game.
What a terrible college football program. But Lee, just quickly, I don't no, they're not going to go back to a 4 tight end package. That's just not going to happen. They are going to go back to a 2 tight end set where Hunter Henry plays the Gronkowski role and Jonnu Smith plays the Aaron Hernandez role. But that's all I see.
And then they just got to find someone to play the Tom Brady role, and it might actually work.
Yeah, and then it might work. And someone to play the Wes Welker role, or the Julian Edelman role, or basically anything on our offensive line is great. Everything else is kind of very suspect at this point.
Which, by the way, I can't believe we've gotten this far into a tight end show and haven't poured one out for Rule 86. Jordan Reed retires this week. Heartbreaking.
He did?
About time.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
7 years too late.
Hey.
Hey, for a while I thought he was retired. By the way, Josh, I'm actually physically watching that play on replay right now in one of my threads, and he literally had 10 yards on the defender and got caught at the 1 yard line.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like tripped too.
That's what I'm
straight
saying.
Daniel Jones just like tripped right over himself.
Hey. I don't hear any.
And then my
slander.
comment
He tried his
is
hardest.
he lacks the breakaway speed. Wish he could have scored here. 10 yard separation and got caught. Poor
Which again,
guy.
I'm not saying that's a knock on him. Like, I'm not expecting tight ends to run away from defenders. Like,
Kyle
that's
Pitts
just
does.
not going. Well, yeah, Kyle Pitts because
Kyle
he's a
Pitts is
freaking
a
unicorn.
receiver.
He's a unicorn. Okay,
Jordan does.
Yeah, Jordan can get away from him. too.
Jordan, one of his greatest assets is yards after the catch. But he, like, him and Freiermuth to me are like opposites in the sense that Freiermuth, he's going to have the contested catches, whereas Jordan is not. And Jordan's going to get the yards after the catch and the ability to break those tackles, whereas Freiermuth is not. So it's like it really just, to me, it depends on what you value in your offense. If you want someone that's more versatile, because to me, there's a lot of like Delaney Walker style in Brevin Jordan's game. He's somebody that can get down the seam. He can block in line. He can block from the slot. He's not afraid to get in on those defensive players. But when he has a seam, he's going to take it and he's going to go. And he uses his body well. It's just he catches with his body, not with his hands. That's one of his biggest problems.
So here's a question. Is Freiermuth only considered up here? I mean, I have him at 2, but I really consider him more of like a 2A, 2B kind of situation.
Yeah.
I
But
agree. I'm with you on that one.
Is he only really considered here because he played at Penn State? I mean, if you look at his production, he had 300 yards, 500, 300. He only scored 1 touchdown this year on 23 receptions.
Well, I mean, what they
Like,
play, like 6-7 games?
Yeah, they didn't play a lot of
They
games
played-
this
they played
season.
4
They didn't.
games.
But
Can we?
Yeah, I
can
mean,
we also,
I mean, he had 15 touchdowns between 18 and 19.
Can we
So-
bring up that same question with Mac Jones because he played at Alabama? 'Cause-
I feel like you can say that about any player at any position, though.
and
As long as they're in a Power 5, more scouts are watching them because those are the bigger schools.
And we had this discussion, honestly, on quarterbacks too. Is the same thing as we weren't knocking, but we were saying, is Trey Lance only considered where he is because he's playing in a lesser division, or Zach Wilson? Like, is their accomplishments as equal as, say, Mac Jones, who was playing with 2 first-round wide receivers in a school that also has a first-round running back and is just like a powerhouse?
Yeah.
Or you're playing at BYU, who we're discussed had Matt Bushman. So, like, who deserves more credit, I guess, could you say? You know, the guy that's producing with nothing, or the guy that produced the same with arguably much better cast?
Yeah, and I think Trey Lance didn't turn the ball over in his last full season of college football. He 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Like that to me kind of, I know nothing about Trey Lance. All I know is that he doesn't turn the ball over, and that's what I like about him.
I mean, he's Cam Newton with a better arm.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really what his play style is.
Great.
Like if
you're
Cam
telling
Newton
me-
could really throw the football, that's
Now.
what you're looking at with Trey Lance.
Fantastic. I will take Trey Lance.
Well, and
Thank you.
to quote Sigmund Bloom, suck up to the new boss. I was listening to one of their shows, and they said with Mac Jones, he's never going to take more than he's given. So he's a guy who should be able to diagnose the play and should be able to make the right decision, but he's not going to make things happen. Whereas with Lance, Fields, and even Zach Wilson, Lawrence is a step above, they can make something happen, and you're not going to get that from Mac Jones. And that can work for some offenses.
Yeah, see that, and that's the thing for me with those guys. Those guys have ceilings. I don't really see much of a ceiling with Matt Jones. I see a good floor. I think he's a solid like yeoman at quarterback. Like if he turns into Kirk Cousins, awesome. I wouldn't
he
complain
reminds me
about
of like a Kirk Cousins, Derek
Yeah,
Carr.
it's a good comp.
like that solid QB2 kind of thing. And sorry to get you guys off topic. We can go back to
What
Tight end too, Freiermuth.
What more is there to say? Freiermuth is baby Gronk. Brevin Jordan is 6'3", 245, can run. If you're wondering where Josh's college football knowledge came from, it's because Brevin Jordan plays for the University of Miami, and that's the only school that Josh watches. Trey McKitty is a cool name, and that's our show.
No, hold on.
You forgot possibly the steal of the draft though. It's going to be
the
Hunter
steal
Long.
of the draft. Who is it?
Hunter Long is going to go. I mean, I just got Hunter Long in a startup in like round 21.
Wow.
Like, you're getting him in like the 5th round of rookie drafts, and honestly, he might be. I mean, he played at Boston College, so it wasn't a crazy offense, but I mean, he's up there. I think he's a lot closer to Jordan and Freiermuth than people think.
Yeah, to me, he's kind of like in a tier of his own, like that tier 3, but below those guys, and then everybody else is playing catch up.
Yeah,
that's
I don't know. I think Hunter Long. I mean, I think he's got a good chance at. I mean, he does a lot of stuff well to get on the field. He's a really, really good blocker, and I think that's going to help him get on the field as far as like a year 1 tight end to produce. I don't know. I like Hunter Long.
I think his ceiling could ultimately end up being what we saw from Dalton Schultz this year.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he's not. He's another one. He's almost
because that was Schultz's big thing coming out of Stanford. He's a really good blocker.
Yeah, and I think he's almost like where you mentioned with Freiermuth. Like they both are effective pass catchers. Both can win at times in contested catches. Both are fairly physical, but neither are like the super athletic, like after the catch kind of I'm going to run you over or really make any move. And I think Hunter Long is a very good like Hunter Henry type comp. You know what I mean? Like he's that same thing like you mentioned with Freiermuth, Josh, where it's like he's going to get you what his route is ran. You know what I mean? And he'll make the catch. He makes a good contested catches, and it's just he's not going to do much after that. He gets real I mean, he looks like a tight end. You know what I mean? He's not like Kyle Pitts moving out there.
53, I believe.
None of them are Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, he's not even Brevin Jordan though. You know what I mean? Like he looks like a tight end.
The one thing we talk about on the show a lot that when you guys bring up these good blockers, it's almost a red flag if they end up in the wrong system, because we've talked about this a lot, that the blockers who come in already good, they get pigeonholed into having to block and they never get to be the wide receiver that even if we've seen them do it, the team doesn't care because they want you in there to block, and then they just bring in a wide receiver in the slot or they bring in the fast guy. Whereas it's almost better for a tight end if he can't block, because the NFL is like, well, fine, we're just going to split you out and we're not going to worry about it.
Yeah, but then you turn into Hunter Bryant and you don't get drafted.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, Hunter Bryant last year, if I'm not mistaken, was Pro Football Focus's tight end 1 last year.
Yeah,
just based on like all the metrics. Yeah, exactly. And
I had to dig into the tight ends last year, and my goodness, seeing the difference between Bryant, Bryson Hopkins, Albert.
Oh, they were all over the place.
Everybody was all over the place. Like, and it's so much more static this year than it was last year. Last year was a mess.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing overwhelming outside of Pitts in this class. And again, you've got 2 guys, really 3 guys that I think have some potential given, how they're used and et cetera in Freiermuth, Jordan, and Long. And everybody else is an absolute dart throw. And that's really what we had last year, dart throws.
You know who Hunter Long kind of reminds me of is Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
I could see him being Austin Hooper. And I could see where your guys saying where, Ryan, how you'd mentioned them getting pigeonholed and kind of just blocked out. And that's almost what happened to Austin Hooper. I mean, they brought in Bryant, and Bryant's a much better receiver and route runner than Hooper. And now, I mean, Hooper's basically useless in fantasy football coming from
100%
from Atlanta, where he was one of the top guys. I mean,
he was the top guy for 8 weeks before he got hurt.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, and we actually, Matt Seward, who's Matt Too Frosty on Twitter, brought it up yesterday too on my show, that same thing, that honestly tight ends a lot. I agree with tight end and quarterback where landing spot is very dependent, because the quarterback makeup is where it's like, it's in their head. They have to be in a decent system that fits their style. And then the tight ends is where you're saying, a lot of them they can block and they're used in a dual purpose, but depending on how the offense uses them. Like, for example, Kyle Pitts, this great guy. What if he lands in Carolina?
Yep.
They don't use him. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they're going to have to. I mean, you're drafting a tight end at what? Are they 8?
Yeah.
They're at 8, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're going to use them, but like, it's not an offense that really uses a tight end. I mean, everybody was on the Ian Thomas train this year, and I mean, don't even know where he finished. I don't even think he was close to top 24. You know what I mean?
Like 1070
Our,
or something.
like
Shout out to Lauren Carpenter.
Yeah,
Ian
our
Thomas.
good friend, stepmom Lauren Carpenter said that Ian Thomas was her upside one week, and Ian Thomas had
lost a water bet to me on that one.
yeah had 2 catches for 7 yards was his stat line that week.
it's just, look at, they got Dan Arnold this year, who comes from another system that doesn't use the tight end in Arizona. Like,
But he's still so much more of a wide receiver than anything.
Yeah, they're going to.
So
use
I
him
think
more as
he's
a wide receiver.
probably going to fill more.
Yeah,
of
he should break that habit.
I think he'll fill the Curtis Samuel role. He'll be sort of like a big slot for them.
Yeah.
And for the record, they did try to use him in Arizona. He just dropped the football too many times, so that's why he wasn't in the stat sheet as much.
My only memory of Arizona was the Hopkins, Murray to Hopkins Hail Marys or Hail Murray.
Yep.
I still love I think it was the NFL Films audio when he's like Texans, and then just like brings it. It's great. Love it.
It was against Jeremy's Bills, so it was
it's nothing, I'm just used to it now. Something always has to go wrong. You're at the end of the game, like what's gonna happen?
I have to throw my dart throw out. I know we're trying to gloss over these guys, but I had to do research on this guy because a friend of mine from Twitter, Courtney, don't think she's writing anywhere currently, but she did just get invited to Scott Fish Bowl, so congratulations.
Right.
Nice.
But when Josh put the show doc together, I saw pick a sleeper tight end and straight up deer in headlights. Had no idea. Still didn't know as of yesterday when she mentioned Tony Poljan. So go follow Courtney. Still great fantasy info. It's Love Tractor. Love is LUV. Love Tractor 3. So go follow her. Great info. But so I did some research. First of all, this guy is a mountain, literally a mountain of a man, 6'7", 265. But then to make it better, he's a former quarterback. He played QB at Central Michigan and then transferred to Virginia. He's a better blocker than you would think, and I think that's a lot of like knowing what to look for. He's slow as all can be. He's not a fast guy whatsoever. He's not a great high pointer of the ball, but he does catch with his hands. He screams red zone threat, and he's the kind of guy where one of the interesting things I found when I'm trying to make anything about this guy look good, because he doesn't look good. Sorry, Courtney. The tight end 16 last year, not great, had 41 catches and 8 touchdowns. That's the kind of stat line you could see this guy having a year or two down the road after he develops a little bit. But I was just shocked at how big he is. This dude is an actual mountain. And one of the analogies I heard was like, if you put legs on the Eiffel Tower, how doppy would it be? That's what Tony Poljan is.
Well, there you go. Tony Poljan played 1 year at tight end at Virginia. He also ended up playing 1 year of tight end at Central Michigan as well. But
he scores in the red zone.
He had 10 touchdowns the last 2 years. So.
Yep.
I mean, you got Kyle Granson too. Don't forget about him. I think Kyle Granson's interesting. I honestly didn't know much until I researched him because I saw him on Josh's list, and like I really looked into him a little bit more. I mean, he produced over 1,200 yards as a tight end. I mean, he's an ex-receiver, so he's kind of got that Darren Waller type career trajectory. Just it happened in college, but instead. But he scored 14 touchdowns over the 2 seasons at SMU. I mean, he's fast. He runs away from guys. He's that opposite of what we had mentioned, where tight ends necessarily don't run away. This guy does, and he's got decent size. I mean, he's a little bit smaller for a tight end. He's 6'3", 235, so he's more like a kind of like an inline kind of type guy. But he reminds me a lot of almost maybe could be kind of similar to Troutman. He's just more athletic.
So what you're telling me is SMU recruited this guy from Rice, who was a former receiver, and SMU is really good producing receivers.
Yep.
So I'm all in on this guy. I didn't
There
know
you
he
go.
was a former receiver.
He loves his SMU guys.
I mean,
He was all aboard the James Prochet.
Portland Sutton,
Prochet
Cole
train.
Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, like
James Prochet. Did you seriously just name him and not name your boy?
Right?
well, James Prochet hasn't done anything yet. He will eventually be a Pro Bowler. But the issue is he plays in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So that may not happen for a while.
He needs to climb out of there.
Will
Right.
he stay on my taxi squad the entire time? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. James Prochet really needs to find his way out of Baltimore, because there's no shot in hell Lamar Jackson is hitting him anywhere on the field, especially short. So once James Prochet leaves the Ravens, it'll be a good day for everybody. It'll be a good day.
I was gonna say my dart throw guy at tight end was gonna be Bushman. Just looking at what he was able to do at BYU those 2 years where Zach Wilson wasn't doing much of anything, like Bushman was the guy that was bailing him out. And I think what's real, and again, we mentioned this, I don't know if it was earlier in the show or off air, but what's going to hurt him is the fact that he opted out this year, because you saw what Zach Wilson was able to do this year without Bushman, but Bushman was the guy for him the 2 years prior. So it kind of makes you think, like, you know, what could Wilson have done on top of that had he had Bushman? Because that really was his number one guy.
Yeah.
Bushman's on the older side, a la Hayden Hurst when he came out. So, you know, I don't see him being like a high draft capital guy, but I don't think that when we're looking at tight ends, draft capital is the most important thing, because we see all the time the guys that are popping are the ones that are third, fourth, fifth round picks.
Yep.
So or from Iowa. There you go. So again, late dart throw in rookie drafts. I'm probably not touching him in redraft at all. Really, I probably not touching any of these guys in redraft. I don't mess too much with rookie tight ends in redraft, but you know, late round dart throws at tight end in rookie drafts, I will take 1,000 times out of 1,000, because everybody needs a streamer.
Yeah. To Josh's point. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I say to Josh's point, Hayden Hurst was taken ahead of Mark Andrews. So don't read too much into draft capital in the same draft.
Just real quick, I want to give a shout out to the 9% of people who roster James Prochet on Sleeper. You're the real ones. I appreciate
I figure you are the 9%, but that's okay.
That's every league.
I expected to see 1% rostered, and I was the 1% of people that rostered James Prochet. So.
I think I got him on an MFL Dynasty roster.
I have him. I actually have him on a sleeper one, but our rosters are 40 deep. So
yeah, that's like what mine are too.
So
Jeremy, the real question is, did you pay a third round price tag for him like I did? That's the real question.
Honestly, I think I inherited him. It was a team I picked up. But I didn't cut him.
Not a no.
I didn't cut him.
He was not an immediate cut. So not a no.
Not a no.
Not a no, but it's also not a yes.
Yeah, but it's not a no, and that's the crucial part to the equation. It's not a no. Yeah, this has been a great 2-minute show about Kyle Pitts, guys. This has been an amazing talk on Kyle Pitts for 5 minutes, and the rest had nothing to do.
I actually paid attention. We got 20 minutes in on Pitts, so I was happy.
We were moving. We got like a good half hour on him. Close to it.
As we said last week, it will be the Kyle Pitts show and nothing else.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was.
I mean, to me, the real question is: are you spending that high pick on Pitts, or if you really do need a tight end, are you bypassing it and then waiting to grab Freiermuth or Jordan in the second or third?
Yeah, I mean, they're going late second, early third. I mean, to me, that's a good ADP for what they could be. Mm-hmm. But like how we mentioned, I mean, if Pitts is there at 7 or 8, and maybe you really want to go with a tight end premium league, I mean, I'd probably take him. Yep. I just think limit your expectations. Like we had said, hold on to him. Don't just dump him after if he doesn't have a great year. I mean, he's still going to be good. It just tight ends take some time. Even TJ Hawkinson, you know, I mean, this first year wasn't great. Yeah. And last year was definitely much better, but again, he's still not like that top tier that everybody thought he was going to be.
I just feel like with Pitts, there's nothing that he can do that will actually make you satisfied that you spent such a high pick on him. Yep. And that to me is the biggest problem with Pitts, is that everybody is hyping him up. We all want him to be God, but it's not going to happen.
And don't forget, he is not even likely, he is going to be a good football player.
Absolutely.
It's just the fantasy payoff might not be there.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, though, I mean, it might be. I mean, like we had mentioned, after the top 3, who knows who it's going to be?
Well, yeah, and
look at Logan Thomas came out of nowhere this year. Exactly. You know what I mean, there's always that guy that comes out of nowhere, and
who says it can't be like Tony Poljan.
Also former Bill.
Yes.
Also, he went to Virginia Tech, close to Virginia.
That's right.
Same
it's
state.
Tony Poljan.
It is. We've unlocked it. Tony Poljan, tight end 3 in about 4 seasons.
Also, Trey McKitty.
Best name.
Georgia Bulldog. best name in the draft.
That's right.
So,
I mean, Kenny Gainwell's a running back. Kenny Gaineswell. I mean, that's a pretty good one too. Just saying.
That's pretty on point. Yeah.
yeah, but Kitty.
Yeah, Mick Kitty.
Mick Kitty.
Mick Kitty.
I could see him making like a McDonald's burger. After
That's
him.
what I was about to say. If he comes to, if he gets to great heights, right? The McKitty McDonald's meal.
Yep. There. Oh, yeah,
I was gonna
that
say,
even
I kind
better.
of, with a name like Trey McKitty, I kind of want to see him in Tampa with the Tampa Bay Rays and DJ Kitty. That's like a marketing campaign waiting to happen. I'm just saying.
Even better.
I'm sorry.
Just sheerly.
Who's DJ Kitty?
One of the mascots for the Tampa Bay Rays.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
Even better if he can just become a starter. Jersey sales will likely be through the roof for him, just for people
Yeah.
who want a shirt that says Mick Kitty.
Absolutely.
McKitty.
Absolutely.
It would even be better if it says 69 on this jersey as well.
Oh, good
Because
lord.
they just approved. You can now choose whatever
Number you want.
Very
Not
cool.
quite.
So Rodrigo Blankenship going back to 98 like he had at Georgia would be amazing. I think it's stupid. Like, I don't want to see a quarterback wear 42. Like, what is that? That's
The
so
quarterbacks
dumb.
can't change.
No, but I'm all
They're
about
stuck.
watching wide receivers in single digits again. I'm all
Yeah.
about it. I'm all
I
about
guess.
It's
Wide
it's not as
receivers-
big a change as you think. It's more running backs and wide receivers and defensive guys that can be kind of ridiculous. Your O linemen, your quarterbacks, they're the same. So
It's going to be interesting because, like, whenever I see a safety wear like a number 40, I'm like, you're not supposed to be wearing that number.
I don't know that you're going to see it much this year because I just saw that they have to buy up the entire already created stock of their previous jersey if they want to change numbers this year. So that doesn't seem like a wise financial.
No, but you'll see some of the rookies that are coming in. At the
Oh,
skill
good
Yeah,
position.
point.
they can
That's
do
a very
whatever
good
they
point.
want.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably a 2022 project for the current
Yep.
players in the NFL. Yep. All right. That's all we have.
We
on
did it. Tight ends.
Our Stars of Tomorrow tight ends with Jeremy. Thank you for joining. We appreciate
Yes,
you
thank you,
coming on
Jeremy.
with
It's
us,
been fun, man.
Jeremy.
No, thank you guys. It was a blast.
Awesome. And one last time before I wrap up, because these guys don't do anything. Before I wrap up, where can everyone find you and your work?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter is @PopesFFH. You can contact me. DMs are always open. I'll answer anything. And you can find most of my writing work over at yardsperfantasy.com. And you can also find it at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network.
Heck yeah.
Boom.
Give Jeremy a follow, and I'm sure you'll see more of his
Yeah.
work in some of our Stars of Tomorrow threads that are wrapping up this week. So
Just not
Yeah.
the Trey McKitty one.
All right.
not unless he does it the next day.
Yeah,
or two.
when are you posting it? I'll get on it.
We're probably 2
Give me
days away.
sleep. Give me sleep. Give me some coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, he only had 100 some odd yards last season, so
Exactly.
it should be a pretty quick thread.
All
Yeah,
7
I'll
of
be
his
lucky if
plays
I
will
can-
be
yeah.
in your thread.
It's probably career highlights is a 5-minute video.
Yeah.
Yep.
Real quick betting advice. Don't bet the spread on the Anaheim Angels in baseball because they'll fuck you over like they just did to me about an hour ago. So, Anaheim Angels, you are officially on the shit list for not covering the spread against one of the worst fucking teams in baseball, the Texas Rangers. So, I hate you, and I don't understand. You have the best player in baseball. You can't fucking beat the Rangers. It's just ridiculous. That's why I stick to football gambling, where I make money and don't lose it. All right. What am I saying here at the end of the show? Haven't even read it. Don't care to read most of it. Big thanks to Jeremy for joining us tonight. Already said that. I'm way ahead of the game here. Zach Smith's rookie rankings. You can follow him at FF Wu-Tang Forever. Just look at our Twitter and he'll be tagged somewhere on there because, it's a very long thing. But you can find him over at clubfantasyffl.com. You can give him a follow on Twitter. While you're there as well, the latest articles are on the site from Drew on Terry McLaurin and from Chris on Julio Jones. If you missed the latest episode of the Speakeasy, Linda welcomed her doppelganger, Cooter Doodle, to the show. If you haven't checked it out, it's on our YouTube page. Be sure to go check that out. And next week, as I said at the beginning of the show, our Wednesday show is our NFL mock draft show. We have mocked out an entire first round of the NFL draft for you. Some of it being players that we expect to be drafted, some of it being personal preferences and hoping and willing our teams to draft these players. Ryan even drafted someone he thought the Miami Dolphins would screw over for people in fantasy football. So you have to wait and see who that player is. But it is going to be with a ton of people. So it's obviously us three. And joining us are 7 more people. I hate you guys because I have to moderate this damn thing.
Yep.
Chris Molina and Zach Smith, 2 of our writers. The Speakeasy host, Lindelians. Dynasty Nerd social media sensation. Wow, what a title, Josh or Ryan? Who the hell
No,
wrote
I
this?
gave him that.
Okay, Josh wrote for him. Josh is trying to cozy him up so he'll join us on our writing staff.
He already is.
Woo! All right. Josh's schmoozing has paid off. Luke, is it Sawhook? Is that his last name?
Yeah.
Sawhook. Luke
Luke's
Sawhook.
awesome.
I'm excited. I've seen him on Twitter. He seems like awesome. So
Just
I'm very
know
happy
that
to
you
have
won't
him
be
on.
the youngest one on next week's show. How about that?
Yeah, he is. He makes
I
me
don't want
feel-
Luke on the show anymore. Luke is no longer allowed. Sorry, Luke. That sucks. Sorry. Get older, idiot. Why are you here? Dave, the owner of Fantasy Go, who we've had on before, our resident Australian, and a couple of writers from Ball Blast Football. We have Fantasy Mike, who has been on the show with us before, and Victoria Grace, correct, is her last name? Gary, thank you. Victoria is going to be joining us as well. Super excited to have all of them on. And now it just says outro. Glad you didn't write that part, Josh, because why would you do the extra work that you had to do, right? You can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. You can follow Jeremy at Popes FFH over on Twitter, Josh at the One Hudsonian, and Ryan at the Fantasy 5. Ryan, I don't know if you missed it last week. I forgot your Twitter handle real quick because I normally look at it down below, and it blanked. I don't know what happened, blanked on me. I was like, is it me? Because I was thinking of your email, and I'm like, nope, that's not it. I don't want to give out Ryan's email. That's not correct. You can follow me at Joe_Zolo, and be sure to tune in next week. We have an awesome mock draft for you, and then, of course, our Thursday live NFL draft show, which will be running in its 4th year, unlike some of these posers doing it in their 1st year. We're doing it in our 4th year. So come join us. We're super excited to have everybody. Thank you, guys. We will see you next week.